Welcome back, this is part 16 of What Happened to the Alien and Predator series. The Predator, directed by Hawkins. You know, outside of it being a funny bit of trivia that the guy from the original movie has now written and directed this new one, I was actually really excited to hear that Shane Black had come aboard this new movie. I think Black is one of the better writer-director combos working today, so seeing him involved in this project sounded like a sure thing to me. And with a screenplay by Black and Fred Decker, the writers of The Monster Squad, mate, I was sold.
Wolfman's got nards! Come on!
And you know, I started off not just liking this movie, but loving it. I went in with the mindset that it wasn't going to be the original Predator, which was actually a genuinely suspenseful thriller. I went in expecting a Shane Black movie. This is the guy who was behind Lethal Weapon, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, and The Nice Guys after all. So I was expecting a funny action comedy, and the first half of this movie was really delivering on this. I've heard people complain that this movie has too much humour, but I really disagree. This isn't like Alien Resurrection, where the dark, Lovecraftian, Dune-like horror series of Alien was turned into a complete farce. From the beginning, the Predator series has always had a sense of humour. This is the movie where Dutch pinned a guy to a post with a knife and said, "Stick around," after all.
Yeah! Stick around.
And if there's one thing that Black has always excelled at in his movies, it's character chemistry. All of the actors in this movie were just perfectly cast for their roles. All the characters have clearly defined, well-rounded and fleshed out personalities, and all with their own little unique quips and quirks. And there's a lot of just funny one-liners in this movie.
It's not a predator, that's a sports hunter.
Well, we took a vote. Predator's cooler, right? Fuck yeah.
Plus, with our lead characters being a bunch of psychologically troubled veterans, it becomes clear that the humour and camaraderie is being used to mask underlying pain and trauma, which lends them at least some depth. And I guess on a more superficial level, some of the action is fun too. We've got this scene where a captured predator is breaking out of a government laboratory, it's picking guys up and throwing them around, it rips apart some dude's face, it picks up a human gun and starts blasting away some faceless goons. It's schlock, I know, but it's fun schlock. The Predator suit looks great, and there's some nice little nods to the Predator continuity. Casting Jake Busey as Peter Key's son, well, that was a nice touch, I guess, even if it didn't really add anything to the movie. Though I don't know how AVP is still canon when the Alien prequels pretty blatantly contradict them. I don't know, maybe there's two timelines or something. So up until this point, I'm having fun in a trashy B-movie kind of way, but it's about halfway through the movie that things start falling apart. You might have noticed that I haven't described the plot yet like I do in my other reviews. Well, there's a reason for that, and that's because I had a hard time following what was even going on in this movie. And it's not like the movie had the most complicated plot ever. The story is just badly told. There's a lot of plain bad edits in this movie, where they just cut to things that don't make sense or haven't been properly set up. For example, there's one point in the movie where our characters are climbing onto a camper van to get away from two fighting predators, and we suddenly cut to a shot of a dog running towards the truck. But then we cut away and the dog is never seen again. What was the point of that shot? Why would you include a shot like that unless the dog was going to get into the truck with them? What, was there originally going to be a dog sidekick in this movie just like in The Monster Squad, but then it got cut out? That's probably one of the more glaring examples, but the movie is just full of edits like this. Our previously unarmed characters decide that they're going to hunt the predators, so cut to they suddenly have guns. What the fuck? Where'd they get those guns from? Then they need to drive somewhere, so cut to they have cars now. What? Aren't you going to show us where they get these things? Or are we just meant to assume that they pulled them out of thin air? They're being hunted by predator dogs, but then when they shoot one of them, we cut to it suddenly becoming docile and following them around like a pet. What? It's like they cut out a scene that actually showed them taming it. There's a scene where a character is wearing a predator shoulder cannon. Don't ask. And he accidentally shoots himself in the head with it. But the thing is, the shot showing him doing this is cut so fast that on my first viewing of the movie, I couldn't even tell it happened. I was like, oh, what happened? Oh, he's dead? Did the predator kill him? No, he just shot himself. Was that an accident? Was that meant to be funny? If it was meant to be a joke, it wasn't properly set up. You'd first want a scene establishing that he was even wearing the gun and how it works, and then you'd include a shot of the gun turning to his head to show what happened. But no, he just randomly shows up wearing a Predator gun in one scene, then the clip of him shooting himself happens so quick that we can't even see it. It's just a mess. It's like this movie was edited in a blender. And from what story I could follow, this movie has made two big retcons to the Predator series. First off, the movie establishes that the reasons the Predators are taking the spines of people they kill isn't as a trophy as implied in the other films, but to collect DNA from their prey to genetically upgrade themselves, resulting in this bigger, badder Predator hybrid that's the main thread of the movie. And secondly, they imply that the Predators may be planning an invasion of Earth, because, I kid you not, they love hot environments, and global warming is making the place nice and toasty for them. That's right, it's going to be War of the Worlds meets An Inconvenient Truth. And I don't know, I appreciate that they're trying to do something new with the series, but well, I liked the fact that the Predators were hunters. There's something fundamentally terrifying about the idea of being hunted for sport. That this thing wants to kill you just because it's a sick fuck that enjoys it. It gets off on making you suffer, and that it's toying with you for its own amusement. But it seems that every new installment of the Predator series is trying its damnedest to get away from this great premise. The comics and novels want to turn the Predators into Klingon rip-offs that are all obsessed with codes of honor. The AVP movies wanted to turn the Predators into some kind of anti-heroes that were trying to save humanity from the aliens. And now in this movie, the Predators want to take over the world. I mean, what's wrong with the Predators being hunters? Why does nobody but me like that idea? At least in Rodriguez's Predators, they try to expand on the hunter idea with the game preserve planet. And plus, I hate that their only idea to reinvent the Predator character is just to make a Predator that's even biggerer than the last ones. It's like the I-Rex from Jurassic World. It's not really a new, clever idea, it's just the same thing, but more of it. Plus, when you've got the practical Predator suit standing next to the CGI one, the difference is night and day. The suit looks so much better. Yeah, I understand that an 11-foot tall Predator could really only be achieved by CGI, but my question is, why do we need an 11-foot tall Predator in the first place? Was there something wrong with a Predator being only 7 feet tall? Dumb ideas like this just abound in this movie. Nearing the end of the movie, the new Predator hybrid is on a spaceship, surrounded by 12 of our human characters, and it gives them a warning through some translator device that it's going to give them a 7-minute head start to run before it starts hunting them in the woods. Now do the math with me here, kids. There are 12 of you, and it's giving you 7 minutes to prepare. Now how about, instead of running off into the bush where it can pick you off one at a time, how about, stick with me here, you surround the ship where it's cornered, open the door, and just kick the shit out of it. Just swing up the door and fill the room with as many bullets and grenades as you have. But no, they all just run away to get killed off like idiots. And then finally you've got the ending. Turns out there was a good Predator, again with the hero Predators, that was bringing a pod to Earth that contained something to help humanity fend off the pending Predator invasion. See, that's why it was getting into a fight with the big upgrade Predator who was coming to stop it. And in the big twist ending, the characters open up the pod and it turns out to be an Iron Man suit. No, seriously, it's like a suit of Predator armor that defies the laws of physics by warping out to wrap around the human body with shitty CGI. And it's like, oh no. I mean, firstly, that was your big MacGuffin, one suit of armor. That's how you're going to stop a Predator invasion, with one single suit of armor. Seriously, there's going to be an army of Predators, and you're going to stop them with one goddamn power suit. But secondly, and more to the point, it's just a pathetic piece of sequel bait, teasing the idea of taking the Predator series into some kind of Avengers knockoff superhero franchise. And it's like... You know, if I wanted to watch the Avengers, I'd watch the Avengers. I watch a Predator movie because I want to see a hunt. Not some second-tier bullshit knockoff version of Marvel. It's just a complete mess. What the fuck happened to this movie? You know, the title of my show is What Happened to the Alien and Predator series, but guess what? This time I actually know what happened to this movie. And hang on tight, because I'm going on a rant. See, the Predator here is just the latest victim of a practice in Hollywood which I call death by focus group testing. Over the last few years, Hollywood has been increasingly using focus groups to design their movies, and it's just ruining their films. It's what happened to the Thing prequel, to I Am Legend, to Fantastic Four, to Solo, to Suicide Squad, to Justice League, and going back a bit, to Alien 3. See, what happens is late in a film's production, the studio shows a rough cut of the movie to what is called a test audience. Basically, they pull in random people off the street, stick them in a theatre, and screen them an early version of the movie. And of course the test audience hates what they see, because the movie isn't finished yet. I mean, the movie still has unmixed sound, temp music, and title cards that say, visual effects to be inserted here. They're watching an incomplete version of the film, so should it really be a shock that they don't like it? So the studio then surveyed this test audience as to what they thought of the movie, and based off their reactions, the studio then forces the director to make last-minute changes to the movie. Now, anyone with half a brain would realise that getting random idiots off the street to tell you how to make your movie is a terrible idea. The first problem is that focus groups are subject to all kinds of biases that make them unreliable. There's selection bias, where the results of your survey are going to change based off what kind of people you decide to focus test. Like, you're going to get a different answer from surveying a group of 13-year-old boys than you would a group of 40-year-old women. There's small sample size bias, because how the fuck is a test audience of 12 people supposed to accurately represent the potentially thousands of people who'll go see the movie? There's confirmation bias, where producers will favour survey results that agree with their already existing opinions on what needs to be changed. There's social desirability bias, where people being surveyed are more likely to give answers that they think people want to hear rather than say their honest opinion. I mean, if you ask me in a survey how big my dick is, I'm going to tell you it's 12 inches long. That doesn't mean it actually is. And heck, even depending on the way you phrase a question in a survey can vastly change a person's answer. But the second and much bigger problem with using focus groups to design your movie is that instead of getting the professional filmmaker to make your movie, you know, the guy who's been to film school and studied the craft of filmmaking, you're getting random mouth breathers off the street who really have no idea what the fuck they're talking about and getting them to design your movie. I mean, it's like, do you want your car to be built by an actual qualified auto engineer, or by some guy who doesn't know the difference between a camshaft and his arsehole? Because that's how you end up with a car like the Homer. And it turns out in the case of the Predator, the entire third act was reshot based off one of these test screenings. And so because of this, the planned ending was thrown out at the last minute to be replaced by some rushed botch job that was just to appease the focus groups. That's why the CGI looks so bad. It's not because the CGI artists aren't talented enough or didn't have enough money, it's because these last minute changes forced them to do what would normally be a year's worth of work over just a couple of months, so it comes out rushed. It's why the final fight scene is so lackluster, because they didn't have the time to rehearse any kind of complex fight choreography. It's why the editing is so bad, because the movie is awkwardly jumping back and forth between the original footage and what was mandated by the reshoots. It's why the story makes no sense, because whatever the original planned and foreshadowed path that the movie was supposed to be going down has been thrown out. Now, the apologetic reaction would be to say to me, hey, for all you know, the original cut of the movie was terrible. Heck, it might have been even worse. Maybe the reshoots were as a result of a last-ditch effort to save the film. Well, here's a better idea. How about you take that time and money that would have gone into focus groups and reshoots and instead give that to the director so he can continue editing and polish the existing movie. I believe it was John Carpenter who said that the biggest difference between a good movie and a bad movie is how much time you give the director in editing. Hell, Star Wars was a movie that was saved in the edit. You ever see the rough footage from that movie? It's terrible.
When I left, I was but to learn that I am the master.
Only a master of evil, Darth.
But the difference is that they kept on editing the movie until it was watchable, instead of throwing in the towel and reshooting the whole thing. And ultimately, reshooting your movie is like trying to rearrange the deck chairs on the Titanic. If the movie's not working, it's because it has deeper structural problems, so throwing in last-minute superficial changes isn't going to help anything. You're better off saving the effort and just doubling down on the movie you've already made, instead of wasting more time and money trying to save it. So if it's obvious focus groups are a terrible idea, why do movie studios keep on doing this? Well, the reality is filmmaking is an art, not a science. You can't measure or weigh or mathematically prove what makes for a good movie. It's not objective, it's subjective. It relies on nebulous things like opinion and taste and artistry and gut instinct. There's no formula that you can follow that will guarantee a good movie. So the only real way to even somewhat ensure you'll make a good movie is just to get out of the artist's way and let them do their jobs to their best ability, because they're the ones who are the actual trained professionals. But the studios don't want to look at it that way. To the studio, this is just a business. They look at it the same way they would as if they were selling dishwashing liquid or sandpaper or something. They want a manufactured product that's so objectively proven to be good that it will somehow guarantee a return on investment. And so they demand that the filmmakers follow this made-up bullshit, which only results in a formulaic, weak, pathetic movie that's long since had any of its balls cut off. You know, there's a line in this movie where a character calls the team he's a part of Group 2, the sequel to Group 1, only stupider. Yeah, that sums up this movie pretty well. Oh, one more thing. Was I drunk back when I reviewed Predators? I rewatched that movie again recently and fuck, it was good. God, I must have had a bug up my ass when I first saw it.